All right, everyone. I want to thank you once again for taking the time to join this webinar on HCM 10X Lawson Differences today. Have an excellent presentation for you. Before we introduce our presenter, Ms. Jackie Dudas, a few housekeeping notes I'd like to take care of. First, there's a video feed, a live feed, as part of this webinar. You should be able to toggle the sides of the screen for the PowerPoint and the feed as you wish, whatever makes more sense in your screen. Second, we often get this question, we will be recording this webinar. It takes us a few days to get this prepared and loaded up online, but once we do, we'll be distributing that link and you can share it with your colleagues. Thirdly, we encourage questions. If there's anything you'd like to know, please type it into the GoToMeeting module chat or questions box. Our gracious host, Ms. Brittany Degler, will try to ask as the presentation goes along, or towards the end when we have a little bit of time for questions. Before I introduce Jackie, I'd like to tell you a little bit about RPI. In case you don't know us, we are a Lawson-centric professional services organization. We have over 50 consultants to deliver all the technical and integration aspects as well as functional aspects of Lawson, including some very niche areas. We've been in business for a long time, and our model revolves around developing long-term partnerships with our customers. If you've had the opportunity to work with us, hopefully you've had that experience, and we'll get an opportunity to work with you in the future. If not, hopefully we'll get that chance at some point. Ms. Jackie Dudas is an HCM consultant that started working with version 10 in 2013. She's had the opportunity to be the lead differences trainer on about a dozen upgrades since, and this is a presentation that she has delivered at multiple user groups, including the Keystone and the New England user group, and very well received. And with that, I give you today Ms. Jackie Dudas.
Thank you, Keith. Hi, everyone. I want to thank you also for joining us today. Like Keith said, we're going to be going over the version 10 HCM differences, new and available to you in your new upgrade. So this is our agenda for today. First thing we're going to go through is Mingle. Mingle is the new place that you're going to be logging into. It's the new portal, essentially. More on that later. And then we're going to be going through module-specific differences, so self-services, HRPA, all that stuff. Then we have a couple slides on what RPI recommends for change management as you're upgrading to version 10. So what can you expect out of your version 10 upgrade? The version 10 upgrade is primarily a technical upgrade. A lot of work is going to be done on the back end by your tech team, and what you're going to be doing mostly is testing the system, making sure the system works after they've gotten it stood up on the back end. So a lot of work by the tech team, not as much by your front-end users. The majority of what they're going to be doing is testing, and we have listed out here. They're going to be going through all your business functions, so anything that you do today in Lawson, including the self-service modules. You're also going to want to test your inbound, outbound interfaces, any custom forms or screens that you have, all this stuff you're going to want to go through as an end user to make sure it works. Mingle, again, it's your new place where you log in, your new access to Portal, so just expect the user interface to be a little bit different if you're getting ready for your upgrade to version 10. And then the last thing you're going to want to, well, one of the things you're going to want to do with your version 10 upgrade is get some differences training lined up. RPI does provide it. I have given many differences trainings. The good thing about it is it's very low time commitment by your end users. Usually takes about an hour and a half. We kind of customize it based on what modules you're using, not using, and it can be done via WebEx or on-site very quick because a lot of the changes and enhancements within version 10 are something that need communication, but not something that really you need to sit down and teach a user how to do this new thing. So what is version 10? Overall, the version 10 upgrade has minimal impact in end-user functionality. Again, it's a new look and feel, and most of your enhancements are going to be related to processing efficiencies rather than actual changes within the system. So you're going to have some new forms, some new fields, a couple new screens to get used to, but otherwise it's going to be very similar to what you're doing today. So back to Mingle. There are two different types of Mingle. Again, Mingle is where you're going to be logging into to access Portal. You have Mingle Foundation, which is the delivered free version, and then you also have Mingle Enterprise. Mingle Enterprise comes at an additional cost, and it has everything that Foundation has listed here in addition to these features. I believe RPI only has one client who's using Mingle Enterprise, and I'm not even sure that they're using all these extra social features. So if you're trying to decide between the two, I think your best bet is Foundation. Most of our clients are using Foundation, have had no issues with it. I don't have anything that they wish they had from Enterprise. And again, it's the free version. But I just want to make you aware of both of them in case you hear Enterprise somewhere, or in case you're talking to someone from Lawson or you're at a user group, just make you aware that there's two different versions that are available out there. So this is an example of Mingle Foundation of you when you first log in. This is what Portal's going to look like for you. As you can see, it's very stark white. Some people really, I hear a lot of complaints about how white it is and how there's very little contrast. Personally, I love the white background. I think it's very clean and neat, but I have heard a lot of complaints about it. I think I'm one of the few people that actually like it. But anyway, across the top here, you can see some icons. Depending on what your organization has purchased and deployed, you'll see different things up here. So the first house icon right here, the home button, is actually your home. And that's the SharePoint side of Mingle. So again, Mingle is Portal within a SharePoint wrapper. So if we were to click on that house button, it would take us to the SharePoint side. And that's where you would see some documents out there to click on. So the documents that are available are uploaded by users, and they're specific to each role. So that's the way they're secured down. So if I have the same role as you do, you are able to view any documents that I put up there, vice versa, but anyone with a different role would not be able to see those documents. We're clicked on the globe here, that's why it's highlighted in blue, and we're in Portal, so you can see that's where we are right now. The light bulb, I believe, is LBI, and the box with the arrow is RQC. So if there's any other bolt-ons that you want to hyperlink out to your users, maybe ESS, MSS, anything that you want them to be able to click seamlessly from Portal out to, you can embed links in here for them to be able to easily access that. Over here on the right-hand side, you can see a few more icons over here. The suitcase at the top is your print manager. It's a quick way to access reports that you've already submitted, get them out of your print manager. This piece of paper with a question mark is the Lawson Information Documentation Info Center. It's a long-winded way to say where you can find some help about the system. And then the star down here is your shortcuts. So any shortcut that you've added will appear here when you click the star. And the way that you add shortcuts is once you've navigated to a page, there will be like a star up here near these gear icons, and you click that star, and that's how you get it into your shortcut there. There you go. Okay, so to manage your contextual applications, you're going to click, there is a little gear button on the right-hand side of the, well, here it is, right there. So then it would pop out your contextual applications manager. There we go. Okay, so it's going to pop out this box right here, and everything over here on the right-hand panel is everything that I've already added to Portal, and then everything over here on the left is things that I can select from to add to my Portal view. So to select something, you're just going to highlight it and then click one of these chevron buttons in the middle to push it over to the already added side. If you want to remove something, again, same thing, highlight it, push it back over to the left-hand side. Some of the things you have to select from are Yelp, currency converter, world clocks, some things you might not need, some things you might find are interesting, very cool, but basically that's up to you, that's customized by user, whether you want to have those or not. Maggie. So this is the gear icon that I selected to get that to open up. Now once you have what you need over on the side, you can select this chevron button and your contextual applications will pop out. This is a really good view of the print manager here. So these 3 jobs are jobs that I've already submitted, and they're now viewable in my print manager. So if I double-click the PA340 right here, it's going to open up my PA340 results. It's not going to take me to the PA340 report screen. It's going to take me to the results of that job that I had put in. So this is a quick way to get to some existing reports that are out there rather than having to go to your bookmarks and click print manager and then find the output. or if you would have to go to like the PA 100 and then select Print Manager from there. This is a much quicker way to get to some of the stuff that you've already submitted. This is an example view of Mingle Enterprise. As you can see, it looks very similar to Mingle Foundation. Has a lot of the same things on it. The one additional thing that I want to go over that's available within Mingle Enterprise is within this these two chat icons here in the top. That's the social component of Mingle Enterprise, really what kind of sets it apart from Mingle Foundation. If you click those, it'll take you to a screen that looks like this. This is your dashboard, and this contains alerts, tasks, so tasks are kind of associated with process flows and approvals. Also contains posts and comments, so some of the comments here are thanks for your help, tips, tricks, things in the system, that kind of stuff. And this is all role-based, so basically anything that exists in the system that is relevant to your role is going to be pushed to your dashboard here in the behind the scenes based on your role. Very social. Seems like a social network on there. Now we're going to get into some of the actual differences within the system. The first one we're going to go over is the data area verification. So previously in version 9, I believe the data area verification, or whether it said you were in dev, test, prod, would appear on the top. It would say like, welcome Jackie, prod, something to that effect. Now it appears next to the token of the screen. So the token here is HR11. I don't have it set up to appear automatically or always, but if I did, it would appear right here, right next to HR11. If you don't have it set up to appear always, you can do what I've done for this screenshot, which is just hover over the token, and a little drop-down will come up that'll tell you what's the screen you're on and whether you're in prod, test, dev. So it's a quick way to know whether you can hit that add button for the test you're running or not. Status messages, another update we have. Status messages will now appear on the screen rather than in the Internet Explorer status bar. So you can see here it's on the screen, it's above the status bar, it says inquiry complete. This is very helpful if, like me, you've ever had your Internet Explorer run some updates overnight without your permission, and then you have to go back and look through all your settings and figure out how to get your status messages back because suddenly overnight they're not appearing anymore. So that's very helpful. You won't have to worry about doing that anymore. And in addition, because they're now appearing on the screen, you can access Mingle within Internet Explorer or Mozilla Firefox or Chrome, and I believe also Safari as well. List View is another great feature within version 10. Basically, List View displays data that's normally shown on a form as a single record as a list of many records. So this is a PA02 we're looking at here. And as you can see, it's the same information that you would see on a PA02, but it's in a list format. And this allows you to easily navigate and search for different records that you're looking for. So the way you would use this is across the top here, you should be able to see these like white boxes. You can type information into the boxes. You can use your asterisks as you would in a traditional search within Lawson, and then hit enter, and it's going to return based on the criteria you've input the records that are relevant to the criteria. Once you've found the position that you want, you can double click it, and it's going to reload the screen as the PA02 in the traditional format. If you want to start out in the traditional format, in the regular PA02, you can select Show Form here, this button here in the top left. Once you select Show Form and it takes you to the form and you want to go back to List View, that button will now say Show List, so you can go back and forth between the two formats for the screen. These are some other List View screens that are available. Here, this list, and I think it's missing a couple because I know in version 10.06 they did release a few more screens, so this might be slightly out of date, but I couldn't get my hands on a full list of all the List View screens, but this is quite a few of them here. If you decide that you hate List View and you never want to see it again, you can go into your user options and you can select a checkbox that says to disable List View for all screens. If you decide that you like it for some but not for others and you don't want to have to keep clicking Show Form when you get to a screen, you can still go into user options and you can select which forms you don't want to see List View for. Next is Status Bar History Trail. This is another really neat feature within version 10. So essentially, the Status Bar History Trail is going to track the status messages that you've received from the system for your login. And what we're looking at here is these are all my status messages that have appeared. Normally, if this was collapsed, this arrow would be pointing up down here. So I've clicked it up and I've expanded all the status messages, and I can scroll through and see all of the messages that I've received during my login for that time. So this is really neat if you're trying to track down, if you're trying to figure out where something went wrong, if you're testing something, or if you have like a stack of paper in front of you and you're doing a lot of manual entry, and you can't remember whether you actually hit add for something or not. You can open up your status bar history trail here and be able to see that immediately. You can also filter by errors or links down here. So if you only want to see where you received an error, you can see that, or if you only want to see where you have a link available to you, you can select that one. And how the link works is you can see some of my information here is highlighted in blue. That means it's linked. So if I clicked on any of those records, it would take me to that form, inquire on the record for that employee here on the PA52, so it would work for it would pull up that action and that date. So if you select a hyperlink, it's going to pull you to exactly where you were when you processed that action and got that status message. Employee Manager Self-Service. So now we're going to get into some of the version 10 actual differences within each module. I will tell you this is a selection of version 10 differences. It does not include all of the version 10 differences. I do have some documentation where I've kind of compiled all of the release notes into one document, so we can go ahead and send that out with the presentation for you all to be able to look through. But what's included in the presentation today is just some highlights, some of my favorites that I've selected and put in here to tell you guys about. So back to Manager Employee Self-Service. A few new updates here. New personal email field. So within ESS MSS, there's a new personal email field for employees, and you can update that in both places, and that's just in case an employee wants an extra email address for them to be able to be reached at. And that will update. There's a new field also on the HR11 called New Personal Email Field, and that's going to update that field on the HR11, so you'll see it in both places. Also, additional contact phone numbers. There's a place to put in additional phone numbers for an employee, and that's going to be stored on the HR20 by employee. That's a new form. There's also a way to track multiple certifications for employee. So if you have a nurse, for example, who has the same certification but in 2 different states, and you want to track both of those, it's now going to allow you to do that, and the differentiator will just be the state. 2-question format for ethnicity. This is now supported in new hire enrollment. So if I'm logging in, I'm going through my new hire onboarding, it's going to ask me how I identify as my ethnicity. So the first question is, are you Hispanic, yes or no? And the second question is, how do you identify? And that's supported in ESS. And then you'll see if they select multiple ethnicities to be identified as, the HR11 has actually been tweaked to accommodate that as well, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Web user ID is also now captured on benefits changes. So if you're in the system and you're making benefits changes through ESS, it's going to show your user ID, and it's going to be preceded by a W, just a quick audit way to know who made the change and whether it was a web change or whether it was like a back office change by your benefits department. Another benefits update here, an enrollment disclaimer. So if I'm enrolling in benefits and I decide I'm done, I want to close out, it's going to tell me, hey, you didn't save any of this. Are you sure you want to close? And then if I continue to close out, it's going to say, hey, you did not save this. Don't expect to see it when you log back in. Just another way to remind users that whatever they have already elected, it's not going to be saved unless they complete the process and hit submit at the end. Human Resources and Personnel Administration, we have some employee group updates here. These are really cool features that I like for the employee groups. So the first thing is that the updating of employee groups has been expanded from 800 at a time to now 2,000. I do have a client right now who is very close to hitting the 800 limit, so they're very excited about the expansion up to 2,000. And basically that means anytime you run the HR 155, you're going to be able to process up to 2,000 at a time. Another cool feature is now you are able to inactivate employee groups. So you can see there's a new field on the HR 155 for active. So you can flag it as active or inactive. And basically the way that works is if you switch an employee group from active to inactive, it's going to maintain the membership as static. So whoever's in there now is stuck in there. They can't move in, no, they can't move out, no one else can move in. So if you have some plan where people are grandfathered into it, you want to keep them in there, that's a good way to maintain that membership. If you want to update an inactive employee group, you could run the HR 156 with parameters to include your inactive employee group, and then people will move in and out according to their employee criteria. If you want to turn an employee group from inactive back to active, you can go ahead and flip that switch here and then run the HR 155 and get that enrollment back as usual. Another use for it is potentially maybe you have an employee group that you need to use in the future, but you don't want people moving in and out of it yet. So you can create the employee group, create the criteria, but then inactivate it, and that way no one will be able to move into or out of it until your maybe your department has approved it, made some decisions that they're ready to move forward with it. Couple HR 11 updates. So first of all here, there's a little screenshot right here. You have the ability to attach documents. So if you went into the HR 11 and you right-clicked on the employee number, you'll see drill around, select, and attachments. If you click attachments, you'll be taken to another page where you can use a browse feature to browse out to a file that's stored on the server and attach that to the employee. So this is going to be by employee, so you can have multiple attachments by employee, and they'll stay with that same employee. If you want to go back in and view attachments for existing attachments for an employee, you're going to follow the same steps, because there's going to be one side where it'll show you existing attachments, and then the other side is where you can add more attachments. Also, address field updates. The length of the address field has been increased to accept 57 characters. Previously it was 30. It's 57 because that's the limit that BSI will allow when you're interfacing over to BSI. New personal email field, we already touched on this briefly in regards with ESS and MSS, but that just lives on the address tab, and that is just updatable via HR11, or if they're updating in ESS, it'll come in here. Multiple ethnicity identification for employees. So there's a new form called it's the HR28 ethnicity form, and there's a button for that form on the HR11 on the personal tab that you can click, and when you click into that form, you are able to select multiple ethnicities for an employee. The annoying thing about that form is that you cannot update the HR28 with your PA52 personal actions. So the existing ethnicity field that's already on the personal tab, that is still updatable with your personal actions, but I've seen customers now who take that field and use that to either say one ethnicity or multiple ethnicities, so they only have a couple of selectables there, and then they use the HR28 to say if it's multiple here, then they list them out there. So unfortunately, you can't update the HR28 with your PA52 actions. You just have to take that extra step to go into the HR28 and add, change, remove whatever ethnicities that are in there. Lastly, the voluntary self-identification of disability. So there's, for the disability field, I believe that's also on the personal tab, there's a new option that it says don't wish to answer. So if an employee does not wish to volunteer that information, they can select the do not wish to answer button. HR 11.4 is a new screen titled the Employee Assignment Inquiry. So it's essentially your HR 11, but just with your first two tabs, your main tab and your assignment tab. So one of the ways this could be used is if you want some of your employees to see some employee information, but not all employee information, you can give them access to this screen instead of the HR 11. And then they can see the main tab and the assignment tab. But I think part of the reason why they did this is actually because there are too many fields on the HR 11 to be in list view format. However, the HR 11.4 has just enough fields where you can include that in list view format. So this is the HR 11.4 in list view, and again, it's going to function just like the other list view screen that we took a look at. Any information that you know about the employee, you're going to enter it up here, hit enter. The employees that meet that criteria are going to be filtered back up. if you wanted to open up a traditional view of the HR11 for that employee, you just double-click one of the records here. And then to get back to list view, again, you'd use that Show List button on the top left. This is a new feature within the contextual applications. So if you are on the HR11 and you've inquired on an employee, you can use this new contextual application called Employee Information to have a quick way to look up 5 sections of employee data or employee information about an employee. So you can see employee history, ACH distribution, payroll year-to-date totals, benefits, and absence plan information. So you're going to have to already be on HR11 and you're going to have to inquire on an employee, and you're going to have to already have your contextual applications added here on the side, this one. And once you're there, you can click that and it'll pull up specific information for that employee. So this is a really quick way. If an employee calls in and they want to know some benefits information, you can just inquire on them and open this up instead of having to drill around or go to multiple screens to find out some of this information. Couple more HRPA updates here. The job and position descriptions fields have been expanded to accept 60 characters as opposed to 30. This is another one that I'm probably too excited about because I've worked with some clients who've had to really abbreviate a lot of their job and position descriptions, so much so that it doesn't really make a lot of sense, or if multiple people are in there creating jobs and positions and they're not using the same abbreviation format, it can get a little bit confusing as to which is which and which you should be using. So now hopefully there won't have to be very much abbreviation because you have 60 characters now. Contact information, so the city field actually has been increased from 18 characters to 30 characters, and this is system-wide. This is not just within the HR application. Also, if you're printing out W-4s and an employee has multiple address lines filled in, like address 1, address 2, address 3, all of those lines will now display on the W-4. Personal action updates. The new value field has been increased to 60 characters, I believe, except for the address field, which is still going to be 57 to allow it to pass over to BSI. I think you can still enter in 60 characters. It's just going to drop off the last 3 for when that's processed. And then personal action history audit. So after you've submitted a personal action, you can go back and you'll see the user ID for who submitted it and the date and time, just so you have a very clear picture of who was doing those actions. Couple reporting updates. The PA222 certification listing has been enhanced to show all 4 digits of the year, and I always joke that now you will know whether the certification was acquired in 1911 or 2011. So it makes it very easy to know when you've gotten your certifications. The PA223 starters and leavers report now shows the position that the employee is either starting into or leaving from. Gives you a clear idea of that. And there are also additional parameters added to the PA105 and the HR105, and I have them listed out here on the screen. Now we're into benefits updates. So a couple updates on the HR13 dependent screen. First of all, here under dependent type, we have a new option to select domestic partner. And then down here on the right-hand side, if this dependent is a student and you need to track that you verified their student status, there's a new field in which you can do that, and it's titled verified, and it's a date field, so you would enter in the date that you verified their student status into this field right here. Couple more benefits updates. On the BN242 one-page benefit statement, you can now submit that to run for multiple one-page benefit statements. So if you want to do that for multiple employees at one time, you do have that opportunity now. Also, the BN247 beneficiary listing, there's additional parameters where you can filter by employee or employee group. On the BN15, there's a minimum dependent enrollment rule. So as you're going through your enrollment rules, you can, it'll take you to the BN17, and there's a place where you can enter minimum dependents for a certain plan. So if I'm enrolling single and I accidentally go to enroll in a family plan, it's going to stop me because I've already set up that the family plan requires at least 2 dependents or something to that effect. So that's a cool feature to keep employees from enrolling in plans that they shouldn't really be in. Also, there's a new descending date order for employee benefit deductions and drill. So when you drill around on employee benefit deductions, you're going to see that where the most recent one will be first and the last one will be at the bottom. So you won't have to scroll all the way to the bottom to see the most recent. Now into some absence management changes. Reversal of any P52 personal actions is going to restore the absence management plan for employees. So the LP 35 and 100 have both been updated to accommodate that. Also, FMLA calculation, there's been some code changes put into the system that's going to automatically restore the employee's 12-week entitlement after they've completed 12 months of work after returning from leave. On the LP51, there's a couple employee leave of absence updates. So first of all, there's a new field for employee email address. So if the employee has a new email or a different email address than what exists on the HR11 that they're going to be using while they're on leave, you can go ahead and put that information in there. So if you still need to contact them, still need to send them information or emails while they're out, you'll still be able to reach them. There's also an employee memo field. I think it's 60 characters, and you can just enter any additional information that you have about the leave. And then there's drill around on employee leave of absence record field. So you can drill around on beginning of leave, estimated estimated return, reason for leave, and leave status. This is just a little screenshot showing you what that drill would look like. We have a new program within absence management, the LP199, and this is for closing unprocessed service data. So unprocessed time records or service data can accumulate in absence management for employees who are not actively enrolled in a plan, or for employees who are not who are only receiving like flat amounts or accruals independent of any service hours or earnings. So if this just is accumulating in your system, it can slow it up, clog it up, kind of complicate some things. So to get rid of that information, you can run the LP199, save it offline, kind of clear out your system a little bit, hopefully speed up your processing times as well. Couple payroll updates on the PR160 company name. So there's been a new field added to the HR00 and the HR01 from which you can select on the PR160 which company name to use. So to break it down here a little bit, this is a screenshot of the PR160 right here, and then over here we have a screenshot of the HR01 process level. So this is the field that you can select to pull from. So essentially, if your company is using a legal name for banking purposes that's different from what is defined on the company or on the process level, you can use this field to put in the name that you actually want to see used on your payment print. And then you can select it from the company name field right here, whether you want to see it pulled from company or from process level. There's another new screen, the PR170. It's a new positive pay file, so it just gives you the ability to produce a positive pay file to send to the bank to ensure that your checks are ready for cashing. There's also a new CB170 on the AP side, same thing, just allows you to produce a positive pay file to send over to ensure that your checks are ready for cashing. Couple more payroll updates on the PR260. We actually have a client right now who had this as a customization, and now that they're installing version 10, they're able to get rid of this customization. They don't have to maintain it anymore. But essentially on the PR260, you now have a report option to suppress the employee payment information. So if you don't want users seeing that, you can already automatically suppress it, don't have to customize that. Additionally, the pay code column number has been expanded from 2 to 3. So that just means that instead of 99 pay codes, you can now have 999 pay codes. PR134, this is another really cool update within version 10. When you're running the standard time record update, it gives you the option to skip mid-pay period hires. So it's going to take a look at the employee's hire date. If it falls within that pay period, it's going to print them out on a separate exception report. So you can take a look at them and decide whether time records actually do need to be created for them or not. A couple of PR12 updates. If you go into an employee's PR12 and you go to delete a direct deposit record there, it's going to give you a warning just to confirm that that was actually your intention, that's actually what you wanted to do. And then on the HR10 data item attributes, there's a new topic for DD that's going to allow you to track history for direct deposit information if you set that up on the HR10. There's a new memo tab and field on the PR35.2 and PR36. So you can see here below there's a whole new tab titled Memo, and then the whole memo section here, you're allowed 60 characters in there. And just like any other information that's held down here, it's going to follow the record that you're selected. So for me, I'm selected on this first record. It's going to be this memo is going to be specific to that time record, and it's going to follow that time record actually through to history. It's going to go to the historical time record. We have one new update within add-ins. So the drill around feature has actually been added to add-ins. So when you're within the query wizard, you should fill out your report the same way that you always do it, select your fields, all that stuff. And then before you hit finish, you're going to want to come to this map wizard tab, and you're going to select the fields that you want to be able to drill on in addition. So company is always drillable. Whether you select it or not, it's always going to appear as drillable. I've gone in for this query, and I've also selected employee. So once my report is run, I'll be able to drill on employees based on this report. So once I hit finish, it's going to return all my records like you're used to seeing in a report. And then on the top right, next to the employee, or next to company and next to employee, it's going to show an asterisk to show that they're actually drillable. And then what you were going to want to do is highlight the record that you want to drill around on. Go back up into your Infor Lawson section and select Lawson Drill, and it's going to pop up a pop-up box that's going to look very similar to what you see in Portal today when you're using the drill around feature. I'm not sure how often you're going to use this rather than going into Portal itself and using drill around, but this is helpful in case you aren't sure what fields you might need for the report, or if you need to be able to go back and verify something. I recommend maybe getting into the habit of just going ahead and making employee drillable, because you now have access to all of this information just within your sheet. So it can't hurt, and it's only one short extra step. But yeah, you'll probably, when you're drilling around, you'll probably be going back into the system rather than going and pulling a query and then using the drill around feature from within there. So now that you've heard all the cool features that are within version 10, I'm sure you're dying to know, how long is it going to be until I get to use all this cool stuff? So how long does it take? With RPI, a version 10 upgrade generally takes about 6 months. Depending on the size and complexity of your organization, it could take a little bit more or a little bit less. But between getting the system stood up, getting all your testing ready and everything, it's probably going to be about 6 months until you're fully deployed. We have one slide here on change management. So these are just a few things that RPI recommends as you're preparing your department, your organization for your version 10 upgrade. So one of the things you're going to want to do is just communicate to the users the time windows or the time periods that they're going to be involved in the version 10 upgrade. You know, if they're on the tech side, they're going to be involved in it heavily on the front end. If they're an end user, they're going to be doing a lot of testing. Just give them an idea of what their role is, because a lot of people may have never seen version 10 before. They may be scared of the upgrade, but just let them know beforehand, hey, this is what we've learned, this is what we're going to be expecting. And then as part of that, I recommend that you leverage application exploration as part of the training for your employees. So basically, once you've stood the system up and you've put some data in there, you should just open it up to your users. Send them a link, send them their login information, allow them to log in and just click around. Go to the screens they normally go to, allow them the chance to realize that it's not that different, it just looks a little different. So that'll also be good in conjunction with testing, because you're going to have your users doing a lot of testing, and that'll get them used to the system, that'll prepare them for when you're actually live on 10. They should feel fully ready at that point. Another thing you can do, I think we briefly touched on this in the beginning, we were looking at some Mingle screenshots, but another thing you can do is embed a deep link to Lawson, so that when you first log into Mingle, you'll be brought immediately to Portal, rather than being brought to the SharePoint side where that home icon was, rather than being brought there where you'll see the icons that are role-based, or I'm sorry, the documents that are role-based. You can just be brought to Portal instead. I've heard some clients don't really like taking that extra step when you first log in to click the globe to get you to Portal. This way they'll just already be there when they log in. Then you're going to want to get some focused training for your end users. Again, mostly around Mingle and the differences within Mingle, differences with the user interface and the feel. And one of the things we also recommend you do is record the training that you either do yourself or the training that you get, and post it out on your intranet or your organizational portal, and allow your users to be able to watch it on demand. So that way they're they can rewatch it, they can feel comfortable with what they're doing, get more exposure to the system leading up to your version 10 upgrade. So I believe that is all we have today, unless we have any questions.
We do have a couple of questions. The first one, do the contextual applications work on Mingle Foundation, or do you need to have Enterprise as well?
No, the contextual applications are on Mingle Foundation. They're on both Mingle Foundation and Enterprise, but you're going to see them in the Foundation version as well.
Does the status history work on every screen?
Yes. I had my example up there was a PA52, but the status bar history trail does work on every screen.
And lastly, is there a difference between Mingle and Smart Office?
I'll go ahead and take that one. So Mingle basically replaces Portal, which we would call the soft client, meaning you don't have to load something on the end user's computer to use it. Smart Office is basically an advanced thick client for LSF. It has a lot of functionality. They are somewhat similar, as Jackie pointed out, because Infor is looking to have a unified look and feel for all its front ends to create a unified experience. We have seen customers look at bypassing Mingle altogether and using Smart Office exclusively, but for the most part, all our customers are using Mingle and a handful are using Smart Office, so that would typically be for your power users. We have no more questions. I want to thank Ms. Dudas for a terrific presentation today. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to attend. We will be posting this up on YouTube. If you're interested in learning more about version 10 upgrades and how to embed that Mingle link directly to Lawson, we have some excellent webinars recorded on that, as well as Global HR, which for many of you I think will be the next step once you're on version 10 to start looking at. Just go to youtube.com and search for RPI Consultants, and all these will come up. And with that, I want to thank you and have a good afternoon. Thank you, Ms. Dudas.
Thank you.